Hi, welcome back to another tutorial. In today's video, we will be learning how to make a patchwork, crochet, or knitted blanket. Let's begin. So for supplies, you will need your patches. These are either crocheted or knitted or both. You will need some yarn. I have white yarn to sew my patches together. You will also need some scissors and a yarn needle. The patches in this tutorial are 7 inch by 9 inches, and that's what the measurements will be based off of. Here are the number of squares it'll take to make a blanket based off of what size, so for a baby, lap, child, or adult. And remember, this is based off of the 7 inch by 9 inch rectangles. To begin, you want to order your rectangles in a way that you prefer that'll make your blanket look how you want it to. Starting with the rectangles that were on the far left of your order, you want to line them up such a way that they're face to face, corner to corner. So now we'll begin sewing. You want to thread your yarn needle with your yarn of choice. I chose white, and you want to start at the very left side of the 2 squares. You want to align them such a way that you're kind of inserting it on the side so you can have a nice clean edge. So once you get all the way pulled through, you want to hold it tight, and we'll be using a stitch where you go through, over, over. So as you saw, I went through, and then I brought the yarn back over to the side that I started on, and then I went back through the next stitch. So you want to continue this pattern until you get across both rectangles and you get to the very right side. So again, the pattern is through both V's, which is the tops, and you want to pull through all the way, make sure it's tight, then you want to go back over with your yarn, making sure to cross it over both rectangles. You want to go back through the next stitches and make sure they're aligned, pull through, pull tight, and then go back over. So you want to continue this pattern all across the rectangles. Here we are at the end. You should have one more space left for both rectangles to go through, and you just want to do the same technique where you go through both and pull through so you have a nice, neat finish. When we open the 2 rectangles, they should look something like this, where you have a neat, clean look on the inside, and that's because when we sewed that running over and through stitch, it provided a nice finish on the inside, which is what will be shown. So next you'll want to bring in your 2 next rectangles, making sure to line them up and having corner to corner. And what we're actually going to do is, with the yarn that's still attached to the yarn needle, you want to kind of combine them together like I'm showing here, and you want to start sewing through the next rectangle so they can be combined. So here I am going through the corner side of the first rectangle, going through the corner side of the second rectangle, and you want to make sure that, again, they're aligned so you can have a clean alignment so nothing's really off. And you just want to pull through, pull tight, and making sure that there's no gap in between the 2 rectangles. So again, you want to go over, you want to go through the next stitches, and you want to pull through. I want to emphasize that you should really pull your stitches tight together, especially in between the 2 rectangles, so that you don't have any problems leading up to when we start sewing vertically. So again, continue the pattern of through, over for the entire rectangle, and I'll meet you back at the end. We want to continue this pattern by bringing in the next pair, connecting it to the previous one, and going all the way across for your designated amount of rectangles. So here I am at the very end of this completed row, and I finished a total of 7 across, meaning 14 rectangles were used. So when we end our row, you want to cut off your excess yarn, leaving about 6 to 7 inches. I left a little less, but I would say about 6 to 7 inches just so you have enough to weave in your ends properly at the end of your blanket. So here at the top I have a stack of my third row of rectangles that I'll be using next. Like previously, you want to make sure that your new rectangle is face to face and corner to corner with your previous rectangle, and we will now be sewing horizontally across from the second to third row. Using the same sewing technique we used for the first to second row, we will now be continuing that for the second to third row, going all the way across from left to right, making sure to connect the rectangles in between, leaving no gaps, and using our through, over sewing technique. So in between rows, you might end up not having enough row to complete it. All you'll do is get a new piece of yarn and tie it to the old one, making sure to do a double knot to secure it. And you're just going to continue sewing and sewing over these little threads so you can weave them in properly into your piece. So once you tie your knot, you just want to start sewing like normal, just continuing on with your work. And you can either weave in your ends by just sewing on top of them, or you can weave in your ends later with the yarn needle. Here I am at the end of my third row, and you want to continue this pattern of left to right for new rows for your desired amount of rows horizontally. I'll meet you back when you finish all of your horizontal rows. This is what it looks like after I've completed all of my horizontal rows. Now that we have completed sewing from left to right, we will actually want to start sewing up and down to finish completing the blanket. So you're going to start by threading your yarn needle just like we always did. And here I'm showing that our stitches have finished from left to right. Now we want to start going up and down vertically. So these will be considered our vertical rows. So with the first two far right ones, you want to put them face to face just like we did for our horizontal rows, except instead of doing up and down, now we're doing left to right. So face to face, corner to corner. You want to get your first corner, thread through both sides, making sure to align it well just like we always did. You want to secure it, and then you want to go over, go through the next stitch, go through, and do the same technique as we always did. Through, over, next stitch through, over. Continue sewing until you finish off the entire blanket, connecting all squares together, and I'll meet you back at the end to finish off our project. Hopefully you finished off sewing your project from left to right and up to down. Now is the final touches where we want to weave in the ends. So here I'm showing that you want to go through kind of the top stitches of your work to kind of hide in the end. Again, I had a small piece for my ends. That's just how it happened. But if you had a longer piece, it would be a lot easier getting the yarn through. Pulling through the stitches we just went through, you want to make sure that it's nice and tight and secure in there. And the key to actually weaving in ends is going one direction. So as you saw, I went down, and then going a different angle so that it's nice and secure, and when the blanket's in use, it just doesn't come undone. So here I went down and then in kind of an odd angle. So once you get done with weaving in your end, you just want to cut it off and finish it up. Here I am showing another end being weaved in. So I threaded it, or if you have a short tail like me, I went through the stitches first, then threaded, and then pulled through. And then you just cut off your excess yarn, and then your ends are weaved in. Now that all your ends are weaved in, your blanket should be complete. I had fun making this project, and I hope you did too. Thanks for watching.